So yeah, based off of what my last video and told you that Erebus coming to think now might actually be the New Testament. Jesus Christ. See, all the people in the New Testament might have been real, but Erebus, though, was still part of Proto-Genoi. And I noticed too, though, but Proto-Genoi is the only Greek mythology gods that are completely different than all of the other gods, or any of the mythological gods too, in fact, that are completely different than all the other ones that we see today. It's online, you can research it. Also, I do want to recommend too, research death. Online, just the personification. Don't go too far into it, but the thing is here, folks, viewers, visitors, whatnot, I do believe we're at war with ourselves. It's going to come. It's happening. It's been seen on the news. Even though people do not talk about it much, but still, it is on the news. And everything is always hinted about death. Thanatos. So, chances are here is the Bible speculating spiritual warfare, but in actuality is telling us differently, that there is in fact an interdependence chain there, but there is a way to think positively about this, such as to bring about reconciliation, and such as where I believe that Reckonation is in order to differentiate all of this for good, reasonable compact means. So, quoting from what my Christian church bishop takes from all of what's been said into this, he says that I have not been created to live as an isolated lone ranger dependent upon only myself in life, but that I have been created to be in relationship with others, fully engaged in their lives and appreciative of what we add to my life, or what they add to my life, sorry. Especially what I believe and what I hear you saying is that interdependence leads from light into darkness, but interdependence leads us from the darkness into the light. So you hold the lamp for me, while at the same time I hold the lamp for you. Together we see reality and truth in a better and clearer light than if we were simply on the journey alone. So what I'm implying here is that from my portfolio, what I have accumulated over the years, in fact, is actually on broad terms with something here by accordance that we are seeing this in a black and white issue upon real versus fake. But just as a Christian will say, they'll try to even debunk all this themselves too, just like any atheist would. That not to fall into this kind of darkness, not to be deceived by it, and clues, even though they are clues, that there is a demonic force out there that is possibly our enemy, the last enemy in the Bible, death itself. It even speaks about it in the Bible. So, when I think of broad terms here about LGBT, I don't really see it as, even though it is sinful, but in a way though, if you look at the past and then to today's time, and to how so much this has gone on, these are actually people who have been pushed into that. They haven't. Even though they have been seen as the fact goes that they did see themselves to want to be that way, but first of all, I know a lot of people who even stated that they were lesbian or even gay back in the day in high school and middle school, but in that time though, people were really prone to MySpace. They were always taking pictures of themselves in the mirror constantly. That's why I don't like MySpace at all, because the whole sensibility in that is just plain stupid. So then there are people too that take it more seriously than that. They start to take pictures of themselves in the mirror more often than taking pictures of themselves out from it. So you tend to think that there really is something wrong with that person. But beliefs are still beliefs, and they sit there today, but in accordance though, it's out of control. Because nobody is really talking about this truthfully. Nobody's really telling what they believe, what they think is there, what isn't, what is. And just because you read so many passages in the Bible, it tends to... See, this is how I see the Bible when it comes down to the Antichrist. It's a rubber band. We take a rubber band, okay, so the more that the passages, it tends to loop you this way, and then it loops you back from past to future, such as from Old Testament to New Testament to this part of the Bible to that part of the Bible. Whereas they're trying to contradict you to tell you that, oh, this part is means with that, so you don't have to be fearful about that. So you come back to this passage, and you notice it's good. It's actually more helpful for you to understand that. But the thing is, though, a lot of people today, when they think about the Antichrist, how they think, oh, Jesus will never return again. There are times where I do doubt that, where he'll never come back because superpowers don't exist, and I just don't really picture a guy levitating from the sky just to come down here. And from where exactly will he do that? I just don't know. And every time they reference Hades in the Bible, it could even be assigned to a volcano. You'll never even know. But Erebus, however, described as human. See, before Jesus Christ came around, everyone was human, but more seen as dark people. So the more people tend to take drugs, the more people tend to drink alcohol, the more people tend to do all that other stuff. That's why they think it's probably even normal. So when you really think about it, it's more like a chain. Balance. It's a balance scale. So the more you do think about it, the more that you start to realize that because of all those laws out there that surpass most of what's going on, it's actually controversial to what's being told of religion. Because people are making it religious, more of a problem from it. And when you think about how Jesus Christ died on the cross and what his last words were, but the thing is, though, anyone can convert to a Christian. So whether my theory tells you that satanics can still be seen as friends, especially the ones that are still sitting around determining where they really do stand, I believe that they can actually come back to the light. That's what reconciliation really means. But reconciliation is more seen as terminological, as in bringing back relationships between each other so we feel more safe at home with our loved ones again. Whereas reckonation, my term for it, taking reckon and nation. So I think of it being opposite signs to spirituality. But the more I reference, though, provided that it will likely seem that atheism and liberalism, provided that it's all branched from Erebus psychologically, whereas if really you care about religion, I would really talk about this more with your churches. I would really point this out more to what's being said through my videos, that I do believe that there is definitely another evil out there that's just not comparable to Satan. It's another evil of its own. Hinting at inequality. Because when I first started off with this, I kind of thought that an equality spectrum could be in order with this whole theory. So I started to dive more into the research, thinking maybe I can abolish some way of racism or violence, but it's always around. So, but still, even though I do want to express it more as a business portrayal, but even though there are people today who will actually disclose and say that homosexuality and racism and all other stuff is actually a sin, but if you really do notice, though, that people are trying to make themselves more robotical than they want to make themselves be seen more as human. So when they come to think that their gender doesn't mean anything, it really doesn't to them. So when you think that it's possible that it's another evil, chances are your assumptions are right. But the fact is, though, that this is an evil that existed way back in the time when Jesus was around in the Bible. Even if he did exist, or even if you will doubt that, say that you don't, even a scholar who will say it doesn't, may not even be a Christian at all, you will never really know that, because first of all, none of this will never fade because it's been around for way too long. Because it has to deal with the existence to how we came to be. So, upon my theory here, though, I do think that chaos is around. And this is all linked to chaos. And when I look at the Trinity, I think our enemies are neo-people. Neophytes, or neophytes, or I don't know how you pronounce it at the moment. It's a little late. So it defines why. See, it's more the Trinity in the Bible is more seen like a Trinity shape for trying to tell you that what world God is to them, to the person, to what is, what isn't, what is Son, Spirit, Father, God. More like a diagram to telling you about how the world circles and comes into this part. Whereas talks about like triads. So just what is a Christian exactly? That is the part. So when you engage in conflict there, you do got to realize that there is a point in your life to where you are going to have to deal with fear and try to overcome it. So notice in Hollywood especially that people like goths, for instance, they really do not care for neo-goths. So especially neo-goths would people would do is that they purchase their clothing wear off from some ordering website that's linked to Hot Topic or Spencer's. They get their kicks and items and clothing from there, and they go and portray themselves as a goth. But there are people, though, in this day and age who tend to go extreme with that. I'm not saying that it's bad, but